And we're live. Good evening, everybody. Tonight we've got our usual panel. We've got Claire, Wisteria Elemental Witch. I like to get that one over first because it's always a mouthful. We've got Scott from Paranormal in History, Sarah from Paranormal in History, and we've got Sam broadcasting from Broadmoor. So if you'd all like to say hello.
Yeah.
Would you like to say hello, everybody?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Right. What we're going to do tonight, because up until we've been rushing around doing phones and things tonight, sorting them out. I've got nothing planned, so...
We're interviewing a real serial killer. She's right there.
Me.
Who?
Sam.
I should have put the green screen on tonight.
Yeah, you should have put the Hannibal Lecter mask on as well, Sam.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Because he was in the orange suit. Right. So what we're going to do. Basically, we're just going to cover any general paranormal topics again this week. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask, just slap them in the chat, and hopefully one of us will actually answer it or give our opinions anyway. Nothing anybody says on this channel is fixed in stone. They are just our opinions. Right, we were having a bit of a conversation just before we came on, which Claire, you missed, which was quite interesting. Would you like to tell them about the car conversation you have, and then we'll get everybody's opinion on that because it was quite interesting.
Right. Okay. So today, me and Scott were driving up the town, right, and we were talking about how spirits are on parallel planes to ourselves. And Scott had said, "Can you imagine the amount of people that are standing on the pavements and stuff, but we can't see them?" And I was like, right, okay, but aye, that's true. So I made a kind of comment and jest about the fact that they could be driving on the roads in their little spirit cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scott said, "Oh, I don't know if that's possible. Cars don't have a soul, blah, blah, blah." And I said, well, to be honest, if you think about it, you could have 5 cars, the exact same, and theoretically have the same driver who's driving them. And every car could drive differently because cars have their own kind of quirks and different
personalities,
personalities. So that brought us to the question, if you think that if there could be cars on the spiritual plane.
So basically you're asking, could inanimate objects basically have a soul as such that would actually appear, as a spirit? For me, I would have to say they can in one respect, if you look at the stone tape theory, because there are quite a few famous hauntings where things like coaches are involved, where coaches pull up outside properties. Borley Rectory was a famous one for that. There was apparently a ghost coach that used to pull up outside Borley Rectory. Now, for me, it would only occur in residual hauntings where it is more of a recording than an actual haunting. But, from that respect, I suppose you could say inanimate objects can have a spirit as such, from a residual point of view. Sam?
Well, I could put a twist to this.
Go on, then.
James Dean's 550 Spider.
Little bastard.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I'm very skeptical of a lot of stories and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of things happened, in connection with this car.
Right. Yeah.
Anybody that was connected with it, I mean, like, the engine was put in another car. It was transported. Anybody that was in contact with that car after the crash, had very bad luck. They got injured by the car, got killed by the car.
Right.
It's kind of weird, do you know?
So do you believe that there's some kind of negative energy connected to it, Sam? Do you think that's what it is?
It's hard to know, but somebody told James Dean that he was going to die in that car.
Right.
Whatever made him say that, I don't know.
Yeah. Because wasn't he actually beheaded in the accident?
I'm not 100% sure.
I think he was beheaded in the accident, but I know it was bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a friend die like that, when I were at school. The car roof.
Yeah. So you actually believe that was connected to the car, Sam? All these deaths could be linked back to that car?
Well, there's too many coincidences for it to be a coincidence, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Is it? Sorry, Sam. Is it like that movie Christine, where the cars got some sort of right? Yeah. Because I've not heard of it. That's all. So I'm just.
Yeah, the engine went into another race car, and that race car crashed.
Mm-hmm.
It was put on display by the police, I think it was.
Right.
And it fell off its stand. People got injured in the transportation of the car. And it disappeared. Nobody knows exactly where the car is.
Yeah. Oh, so the car's actually disappeared now?
Wow.
Yeah, there's no trace of the car,
Wow.
And but the fact that somebody had told him that he was going to die in this car, and he shrugged it off. Yes, he got killed in the car. It's a kind of a strange one, There's one thing I wanted to do actually is have a paranormal investigation in a scrapyard.
That is actually quite an interesting suggestion, Sam.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you think a lot of cars that turn up in scrapyards end up there as a result of accidents, so they have going to been, some of them are going to have been present at traumatic events. So would you do you think you'd be able to link to spirits who had actually died in them cars through the cars themselves in the scrapyard, rather like people say dolls have attachments?
Yeah, but I mean like a car, not so much now we use them like fridge freezers, but way back in the day people were attached to their cars, but even a small scrapyard, there is a chance over the lifetime of the scrapyard that a car was going to come in that has been involved in a vehicle.
Yeah.
That's
interesting. What FT just said, apparently Supernatural had an episode with Little Bastard in. I didn't know that. I must have missed that one. Right, Sarah, so what's your opinion on it?
I don't know. See, I just made the comment this morning, kind of half joking, that as we were driving along the road, there was spirit cars driving along the road.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think much of it. I was just kind of making it as a jokey comment that spirits have the things that we would have.
So do you believe in the multi-universe theory, where there are like infinite number of universes where every time somebody makes a decision, a new universe is created? So for every decision everybody's ever made, there is actually a universe where it's happened.
I don't know. Possibly.
See, because I'll think some of these ghosts that people see, and especially the ones where people report that they go somewhere and they feel like they're somewhere not quite right. I'm wondering if, have they actually passed from one reality into another temporarily and then moved back into their own? Because if they're all based on slightly different frequencies, it would probably be very easy to slip between the ones that are closest frequency to the one we're on. And a lot of ghosts could actually not be ghosts. We could just be witnessing the lives of people in slightly alternate realities to our own.
Do you know when you think in the line of vehicles and the possibility of attached energy and that, cars are made from metal, and a lot of that metal now, it's not just poured, taken straight from the ground. It's recycled from other cars. So even if you had a new car, the metal in that car could have been from a car that was in a fatal.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely.
People that are sensitive, and they had the two similar, same brand of cars, same exact car, and got into them two cars one after another, they could possibly feel a different kind of energy in one car than the other, even though the two of them were exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Claire?
I mean, I wouldn't know obviously for definite, but I do think it's possible, because if it's, I mean, it's possible
if
to
you
even
notice
see
tonight,
them.
I'm putting somebody in between Scott and Sarah so they can't back each other up on opinions. Go on, Claire, carry on.
I do believe it is possible because of the ghost stories out there and things like that. There's got to be something in it, but I can't say I've witnessed it myself or anything, but I don't know. I think energy's energy either way, and when it's like replayed as well, if it's something that's replayed, maybe that comes with the replay. So I think it's definitely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I do definitely believe that residual is all energy. Residual hauntings are all energy based. They literally are like recording, magnetic onto a tape instead they're using stone or wood or something natural. Come on then, Scott.
My opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I'm kind of 50-50. As I said earlier on, I heard years and years ago somebody saying I watched it on TV, whatever. That cars have spirits and stuff, and I thought back then, well, maybe it's possible. I know, curses and what have you, objects can be cursed, so a cat can be cursed, for whatever reason. So I know a lot of people. I've done it myself. They'll name their car and they'll talk to their car. If it, as if it's like a pet, basically. I know some people might find that absurd, but I think this car, the now, is the only car we've no named. I've always given my cars a name. So I would say it's possible that they do have a kind of energy. They also have an energy, but kind of spirit is. I'm kind of 50-50. So I'm looking at back and Sarah up.
Yeah. Now that brings us on to the next question, which is quite good. You were talking then, like, we name our cars and we stick a personality on them. Do you think that it is possible in some situations where you could actually create an entity just by doing that, Scott?
If your energy was strong enough and your mind was strong enough, and I think you could, you get people, as I say, who name their cars, talk to their cars, have conversations with them. Or that you may on the way home from work, my day was crap or something, they talk to their car. So if a person's mind and energy is strong enough, then I do believe they could. So that's just my opinion,
Yeah, that's fair enough. Claire?
Oh yeah, I believe that very much. I do believe, obviously, though, it's not something. Sometimes it just happens by accident.
Yeah.
We accidentally do it, and then other times, we've got to that state of consciousness where we can do it. But I believe, it can be done.
Okay. Sarah?
I would say so. Just touching on what Scott said, obviously, if you go into your car and talk to it like it's a person or whatever, then obviously you believe that your car can receive and somewhat understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Sam?
I don't know, but I do have objects in the house, so a car is an object in a way.
Yeah.
I was saying before we went on stream that I actually have a van, and when I do Spurt Box session in the van, sometimes I get some great communication that I wouldn't get in my other 2 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Sam's got 3 cars. You got a butler as well.
No.
Then they give you a butler in Broadmoor.
Believe me, it doesn't sound. I've got 2 cars with all flat tires, and I've been sitting for over a year, and I have 1 car that I'm using. But this particular van, on a couple of occasions, the words "evil car" came through the Spurt Box.
Wow.
And you only get them. You've only got them while you've been in that van. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, sometimes if we're looking for a part, say a back axle, you could get a scrap back axle, or CV joints. Some of these parts you can get from the scrapyard and that. So very often you have different components from different cars, and those second-hand parts could come from a car that has some sort of an attachment, some sort of energy attachment, and because it's all metal, God knows what energy can be stored in metal. We know
I scrapped my car for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I scrapped.
What?
Oh my God! Because I'd always had, like, when you get your first car, you're meant to be dead excited, aren't you? It's like the first one that you're driving on your own and blah blah blah. Nothing but bad luck. Nothing but things going wrong. Accidents. And what I was. Lee shouted me to look at the CCTV footage, and I was looking at it, and I am not kidding you. I swear there was a young male in that car. And the day after, I scrapped it.
Brett, Mel Gibson was not. Can I? Oh, we must be talking to the other Brett. I was going to say, I ain't been discussing Mel Gibson. See, this thing about creating entities just by belief system. We were just talking about it just before we came live. In the 70s, there was a very famous experiment done by a group of people where they tried to create, for want of a better word, a ghost. When they first started the experience, because they weren't very coordinated, it didn't work very well. So they all got together at one point, and they literally created this person's life from the bottom up. They created him a childhood, they created him an adulthood.
Yes.
And they created him a death.
Yes.
And as they did this, and they started to become more and more into the belief that this was an actual person, because that was the whole point of the exercise, they started to believe he was actually real. This entity, which they christened Philip, I believe, actually started to manifest. They got EVPs up Philip, they got Philip moving things, and I believe they even got a manifestation of Philip. So for me, I do believe it is very much possible, with enough willpower and enough belief system, for us to actually create these things. Now, what we've got to ask ourselves now, is it a fact that all these ghosts we see are a product of someone else's imagination, or are some of them genuine ghosts and some of them possibly, as a result of people's personal belief? Because especially with things like the Irish, in Ireland, Sam, there is a genuine community collection belief on certain things in the Fae and stuff like that. And that is where you tend to get the largest proportion of Fae sightings. So is it the fact that they are genuinely there, or is it a fact that because so many people believe in them, they are creating these elementals? or is it a combination of the two? What do you
I'd
think
say
about
combination.
Yeah.
I would say a combination, because some that you see can be slightly different to others, and it's hard to explain, but yeah, no, definitely both. You know, some have been created, some are set in stone anyway, you know, or in the surroundings, and they just can't get out, and it's just a replay of energy, and they look the same, you know. So yeah, I believe both is absolutely happening or possible. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Right, has anybody put anything in the chat yet that they want to ask about? Or are they just having...
Does matter die?
No, because matter is created from energy, and energy cannot be... It's a law of physics that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be altered.
Well, yeah, that's why when we touch something, Brett, we actually do leave a bit of our energy on that item.
Yeah. So in a respect, no, matter doesn't die. And if you think about it, everybody on this planet is actually made up from stuff that's come from far into outer space. You know, that's where life on Earth, literally, the entire planet is made up of matter that was somewhere else in the galaxy at one point. Yeah, that's correct, Andy. It's a basic law of physics that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another.
Yeah.
So you know, if you think about it, you light a candle, you burn the wax so the actual physical wax disappears, and that generates light and heat. So as the physical part actually disappears, it changes into light and heat, and that's how you explain it. You know, in really simple terms.
That's why oils are so therapeutic. You know.
Yeah.
When you break it down to chemical compositions of them.
Yeah.
Those famous words that we often say, energy can be changed but not destroyed, was my beginning of my paranormal journey in the middle of science class when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
Because my science teacher was big into ITC.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to know his side of things, you know, and we worked together after school for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, so Sam has actually done an ITC video this afternoon that was quite interesting. I sat there and watched it. So I'm going to ask Claire and Sarah and Scott first, and then you can come in on it, Sam, and you can give your opinions. For you, Claire, what do you consider is ICT, as in instrumental transcommunication?
I have no idea, Brett. I got a clue.
Right, as in talking to spirits through electronic devices.
But, yeah,
like the spirit box.
But I think we can unlock it in his minds, you know?
Right.
It's within us. I think it's within us. We just need to really just get there.
So are you saying you think it's ITC is actually more the person than the instrument? The instrument is just a tool.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Actually, that's quite.
It sounds daft,
viewpoint.
I know, but
no, it doesn't sound daft. That is actually quite an interesting viewpoint. You know, is it these ghost boxes and spirit boxes and stuff? Is it actually them doing it? Is it the spirits doing it, or is it us connecting to the spirits and
I think we get a bit of both. You know.
An intermediate. Scott?
I'll go with what Claire says. I think it's a bit of both. You know, we can pick it up, and spirit can sometimes just use it just to give themselves a helping hand. If that makes sense.
See, Claire, it weren't as stupid as you thought it was.
But it's
Come on
me.
then, Sarah. Are you going to back Scott up, or have you got something you're going to say?
Well, we obviously don't have spirit boxes or anything. We just use the apps that are on smartphones.
Right.
So, as we discussed before, whether they are kind of 100% is kind of beg to differ. But I don't know. I think a lot of the time on the apps, especially, that we can kind of control what's going to come out of the app.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't comment on the spirit box because we've never used one.
Yeah.
But obviously, going by my experience with the app, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting questions come up actually concerning this before we get on to Sam. Chaos says, sometimes if you see out the corner of your eye, you see a shadow. Is that because you want to see it?
Well, actually, Chaos, that happened to me in here.
Whoa. Did anybody just hear that?
Hear what?
Somebody just whispered yes after you asked that question. Oh,
really?
Whispered yes. Yeah, a man's voice. Yeah.
Did
anybody else hear that man's voice?
I never heard nothing.
It went like this. Yes.
Claire, now you're saying that, earlier on, me and Scott were on a private stream, right? And at that particular point, the person we were on with was away from his computer at that point, right? And me and Scott were just sitting talking, and we actually heard a guy's voice coming through saying yes in a whisper. But it was that loud that I paused the telly.
Yeah.
This were definitely from your side, Brett. It was a yes.
Don't tell me there's people sitting in the room with me, Claire. I'm in the house on my own tonight.
I wouldn't know. I'm not psychic or anything, Brett. As you know, I think it's because I'm poorly that I'm picking things up maybe a bit. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, ITC.
I will check it back later. Right, we'll ask Sam, and then I'm going to ask Pat's question to everybody on the panel because that's another good one. Go on, Sam. ITC.
Well, the first letter I, instrumental transcommunication. It's communication between. It's communication using instruments, whether it's electrical instruments, water, etc. The thing that I work on is the direct radio voices and EVPs and the spirit box. I've been doing the spirit box for a couple of years now, but I'm actually starting to go backwards to when I was 16, and I'm going to be trying direct radio voices and EVPs. Now, EVPs, a lot of ghost hunters will go out with their little recorder and ask a couple of questions and stop recording and play it back and stuff like that. I don't generally do that.
Right.
I use white noise as background support, and I leave the recorder recording. That background audio support could be static from a radio frequency with no human voices in them. So it's a lot different than the scanned frequencies with the radio snippets in it.
Yeah.
There's no human voices in it. See, a lot of these older researchers, they want to try and eliminate the possibility of pareidolia, and that's why they won't use a spirit box.
Yeah.
You know, and I do see their point, but we do know that sometimes something is communicating back, because after a year or two of using the spirit box, you listen and you get an average. You get an average sound of how the radio is running. Like the speed of the scan. How many words does one person on the radio actually able to come out with? And you're starting to pick up an average. But if you get a disruption in that average, sometimes you'll get a different tone than the normal tone that's coming through.
Yeah.
So that's when you go, wow.
Yeah.
That stands out to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes
does everybody on here find, and I suppose it's the same with the apps, after you've been using spirit boxes for so long, you start to tell when things sound different to what they normally do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes certain communication stand out, because it's markedly different from everything else that you hear.
And you know, Brett, I've done an experiment where I've done the spirit box in every single room and outside just to see the difference. And there is definitely there's a lot of differences actually.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, yeah.
Right, now Pat's put something there which I thought was an interesting question, and I'll answer it first. Do you think it's possible to manifest the word that comes up on the ghost apps? I don't use apps at all. They're not something I find work well for me. I have actually had things appear on the spirit box that I have been talking about. And at one point on one of my videos, I have actually got somebody talking, and I swear to God, it sounds like me saying a sentence on the radio. So for me, yes, I don't know about apps because I don't use them, but certainly I think it is possible to cause words to appear on the spirit box if you're constantly referencing them, or if that's what you're looking to hear. Claire?
Yeah, I believe that, Brett. I mean, I'm not up on apps or anything, and I don't particularly like them because I think they're already programmed to say what they say. But you learnt me that actually, because before then I used to think they were amazing and that every single thing were a ghost. But no, yeah, I do think you can, especially if you're thinking about something so much.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that one intention that's set. Yeah, definitely, it can come through like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also applies to the Ouija board as well. You can do through subconscious movement. Scott?
Yep.
I believe you can. Yeah. Again, as Claire says, if you're concentrating that hard on a certain name, a certain person, whatever. But then the other side of that is sometimes I think it can be your own mind that does it.
Yeah.
You hear it in your own head because you want to hear it.
So
so
what you're saying is you hear something similar and straight away you convert it into the word you want to hear. Yeah.
Your mind can be thinking, it could be the name John,
I've done it loads.
I think you can, but also your mind can, just play tricks on you, for want of a better word.
Yeah. Right, Sam?
I found with the spirit box that if you say a name, often enough, it's going to come. It a lot of the time it comes true, and sometimes there's on 2 or 3 occasions where my own voice came through, and there has been occasions where I'm about to ask a question and I get an answer
for the question you're about to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that.
And I'm kind of expecting that answer to come through if that answer was going to come through. But it's answered before I've asked the question, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So is it our own energy manipulating the audio? I don't know. In the line of applications, technically the application should work. The problem I have is I would rather put sound banks on a little card and play those.
Yeah.
And mix up a layer of different sounds, bird sounds, different frequencies, so you cover all the frequencies.
Yeah.
But the responses isn't going to come out as loud as people expect them.
And you're really going to have to train your ears to listen.
And the thing about making your own sound bank is you got a copy of the original file. So if anything comes up on that sound bank, you can match it. You got the original file to look back on as well. These apps, the sounds that are coming through have a variety of frequencies.
Yeah.
So technically it should work because it would work with background audio support. The question is some of these apps where you cannot get the raw banks out of.
Yeah.
What's in them?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's why I would, if I was experimenting with them, I would rather make my own files of sound.
Yeah. Sarah?
I would say yes, because especially the likes of the necrophonic it's always kind of, so far, it's similar voices we've got.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been a few times where we've been talking about, for instance, we were talking about a bill, and then the name Bill came through.
Yeah.
And then we were also using the Paratech app, a kind of old abandoned children's hospital / school.
Yeah.
And it popped up on the Paratech, the word school. So, I don't...
So it seems like all of us have experienced it at one point or another, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting.
Interestingly, Claire, FT says he skipped back a few frames and there was indeed a faint whisper.
I heard it. I know I did.
So FT's heard it, yeah.
Yep, I know I did.
Right, Chaos has asked a question. Can someone explain to me if the spirit use energy, they use your battery, I think he means your battery life, so your life force, which isn't a lot. How does one manifest? Right now, this is a question that's just going to be down to everybody's personal belief. For my personal belief, I do not subscribe to this theory where people go, oh, I'm giving you my energy to manifest. For me personally, I think anything that is coming through is basically totally energy based itself. It is, it doesn't need our energy to manifest. It is perfectly self-powered, or it is powering itself from another source. It is not, for me personally, I don't believe they are sucking energy out of you like some kind of vampire. Same when it comes to batteries and things draining, I don't personally believe that they are actually draining the batteries. For me, I think it's more of a case of they are so strongly energy based, they are cancelling out the energy in a battery. So it makes it look like it's drained when in effect all it is opposites cancelling each other out. And I think that's what it is. But
that's a good point, Brett.
That is just a personal opinion.
Never thought about that, though.
Start with Scott.
Just what you says there, Brett, about the batteries draining. I mean, we've had it happen to us a couple of times. We went into, like, for example, Greyfriars, where batteries are meant to last an hour and a half each, and they've lasted 15 minutes, each. And everybody does put it down to kind of spirit, but just what you says there, we cancel out the energy. That is a really, really good point. But to Chaos's question, they use energy. I've always been in the frame of mind that the more energy a spirit has, the more, if they want to be seen, if they want to be seen, the more energy they've got, the stronger they'll appear.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The battery life, I would say you've got a good point there that they're just cancelling it out.
Yeah. That's just my personal belief. Could be totally wrong.
At the end of the day, I've seen one of the comments. If a spirit wants to appear, then they will appear, providing they've got the energy to do it.
Yeah. Okay, Claire.
My belief is like people say to manifest something, and then people have visions of people like pulling energy from themselves and placing it, and it don't work like that for me. The energy has to be there. Can you manipulate it? Yes, because it can be manipulated if it so wants to be. But to manifest it, like, no, it's a different kind of manifestation. It's already there to begin with, and you're just changing it. But it's letting you do it. It has to let you do it.
Yeah.
That's my belief anyway. I don't think they suck anything from us or anything like that. I think, maybe we can feel drained sometimes because we're just generally tired within that energy that they've got, because theirs is so much higher than ours, That's the only reason, really. I don't think they're like sucking it from us or anything, no. Yeah. And the batteries, I haven't got a clue.
Right. At least, that's a good opinion, Claire. Okay, we'll go on to Sarah.
I think that spirits have their own energy to come through. But I think the more time they spend in our world and the time they spend communicating, that's when they need that extra help, whether it's through batteries or them taking some of our energy.
Right. So you think while they're here, they convert some sort of energy while they're here?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's a fair enough point. Have you got anything to add to that before I ask Sam?
No, I think that's it, man.
Okay. Sam?
It's very interesting the subject of battery drainage comes up, because I've been at a location called the Coonean Ghost House that was covered on Northern Ireland's Greatest Haunts with Andy Matthews. Wow. And the 2 occasions that I've been there, I've had severe battery drainage. The second time would be some more significant because I had more equipment at the time, and I was with a team of people who had lots of equipment as well. Within it didn't take long for us to end up with absolutely nothing, including torches. So we had to finish up. I took the equipment home and straight away started to put the batteries through the charger. And I have battery testers and stuff. The cameras, when I turned them on when I got home, the energy had been restored on them.
So that's weird.
And all the other pieces of equipment were, that were that had ran flat on the location. The batteries had been restored. So I don't know. There was one part of the investigation where I told the team, I said, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an EM pump in one of the rooms, but you're going to need to stay away from this EM pump because you're going to get a massive headache. And it's a tiny little house, so I didn't put it on for that long. But during that time, we didn't have any battery drainage at all. It only happened then before and after I had the EM pump on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does spirits take energy? I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just I cannot explain battery drainage. I do not know. The question came up about ley lines and stuff like that. Is there a possible ley line there? I don't know.
Brett, can I have a minute? I'm very dizzy.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, Claire. Just shut the camera off for a sec.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. I've only ever had something like that happen once, and oddly enough, it was at the Samhain. Remember the Samhain stream we did last year, Sam, at the Stone Circle?
Yeah.
Now, I took my laser pen to that Stone Circle, and my laser pen would not work all night long, and I charged everything up just before we went. I tested it before I went. We got to the Stone Circle, and that laser pen simply wouldn't come on. I tried it a couple of times during the night, nothing out of it. Got home, walked in the house, took it out the box, flicked it on, straight away it came on. And that's the one and only time I've ever had something like that happen. But the entire time we were at the Stone Circle, I could not get that laser pen to work. Now, FT's brought up a really interesting point there. If spirits draw energy, then surely power stations would have amazing paranormal events. That is actually quite a very interesting thing to wonder. Does anybody know of any power stations that are well known for hauntings? Because I've got to be honest, I've never heard of any.
I've never ever heard of any. No.
There is a dam in America. I can't remember the name of it though.
Hoover.
Yeah, it's supposed to. The dam was built on Native American ground, and the land around it was flooded by this dam, and they believe that the Native American spirits have cursed the dam, basically.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it though.
But can I just get back to you were saying about the laser pen? You know, it wouldn't work, and then it did work. Similar thing happened to us with camera. There was one day I was out myself, and I went to a Drossen Castle and done a wee bit of filming. Camera was fine. Then I went to a place called Kilwinning Abbey, and I walked around, filmed it, and then I went to a park as well. We got home. I was looking at it, and the castle worked out and the park worked out, but the abbey never. So we were out again, I don't know, sometime after that, and we went back to the abbey. And again, I done a walk around with the camera, and again, it didn't record. But everything else we recorded was fine. It just seems in this one spot, it never recorded. And, you know, I'm not saying it's paranormal, but it was just really strange how it worked. Then didn't work. It started working again.
Yeah, Andy from Elemental Encounters has just brought up a good point. The only place that I know to, and I forgot about it, it's a good job Andy just mentioned it, is Stocksbridge Bypass up near us. There's supposed to be a Bargets there, which is a kind of spirit black dog. There's the famous Black Monk, but the other famous apparitions that supposedly appear there are a group of children, literally who appear right under the pylon and sing Ring of Roses. And they have been seen and heard there quite regularly. So there is that where, you know, you've got the electricity involved with the power. But that is the only one I can actually think of. The only problem with that spot is because you're so close to the pylon, it wreaks havoc with any electrical equipment you use there. So, you know, it's a bit difficult to try and prove that one way or the other. Yes, James, they sing Ring of Roses under the pylon.
There's one close to us, it's called the Electric Bray. That's meant to be haunted.
Right.
I think.
It's kind of 50-50 with that one. They say it's haunted because I've been there many times and I can never remember if you're it's a slight, very, very slight hill, but if you're sitting pointing up the way, your car will still keep going up the way, even if you're not driving, if you just sit. But then I've heard that it's meant to be an optical illusion, the way the hill sits.
It is, yeah.
So the jury's, it's a famous place in Yorkshire, but the jury's kind of still out in that one.
Yeah, it's like Becky's just put there, Andy Elemental Encounters better off. She actually heard the singing of the kids the last time they went, but these kids, they've not only been heard, they've actually been seen in a ring, dancing in a ring and singing Ring of Roses, literally right under the pylon. So, you know, that's the only one I've ever heard. I'll check with her in a minute, Chaos.
Is it possible these kids could it be a residual haunting? You know, it's the history of the land.
Yeah.
You know, before the station.
You know, could it be storing in the land and the actual pylon itself is bringing it out? Is that the conditions it needs? Chaos has brought something up there, which I think is an interesting question. He said, funny, I got an EM pump and it didn't do nothing. For me, I've never used, well, I've used one once and it gave me a really nasty headache. What people don't realise with things like EMF pumps, if you pump too much EMF into your near atmosphere, it is a scientific fact that EMF fields can actually cause hallucinations. So I'm always a bit dubious about EMF pumps because you're actually increasing your chance of seeing things that are actually not there. Sarah?
I don't know.
Have you ever used one?
No.
No.
Have you ever done any research into what EMF does?
No. But I remember we were talking about it before, and you were saying obviously to check the EMF, or someone was saying to check the EMF levels.
Yeah, well, basically, it's what K2 meters and REM pods look for. Is basically EMF fields, but you know, there's this belief in the paranormal that ghosts are powered by EMF energy. So this is where it can. Is that Claire whispering in the background, or am I hearing voices?
Yeah, her mic's not off.
Yeah. That people believe that if they turn these EMF pumps on, they're going to increase the chance of activity because they're somehow powering ghosts. But for me, you've got to look into you've got to take science into consideration when you're doing these things. And it is a scientific fact that EMF fields can actually cause headaches and hallucinations and all sorts on the human brain. So for me, I personally don't use them, and I don't think they in any way increase any sort of activity you're going to get. Sam?
I don't know, but I know, people have used EMF pumps, they've used Tesla coils, they've used plasma balls.
You all right, Claire?
Yeah. Oh.
You had a drink? You had something to drink?
Yeah, that's
and
some
by that
fresh
I mean water before anybody gets the wrong idea.
I've had, I'm an alcoholic, no. Teetotal, but no, I've had a drink of water, thank you.
Yeah, good. Go on then, Sam, sorry.
There's no solid scientific fact that these EM pumps are feeding energy to spirits. But, everybody else was doing them, so I decided, why not? It's not a very expensive piece of equipment to make.
Yeah. It's basically a spinning magnet on a motor, isn't it?
I've not seen them, I don't know what they are.
The early ones were a brushed motor and made a lot of noise, but you can put a couple of tiny magnets, which are collecting magnets, and I'm sticking them to my fridge. It's very hard to see them, but they're tiny little magnets that you can stick.
Oh, I've got some of them.
Yeah, stick on a fan, a computer fan. And they're brushless motors. They won't make any sound. If you put the magnets in the right place to get the balance, it won't rattle and jump all over the place. Because if you don't put the magnets, you have to balance the wheel when you put these magnets on. It's like balancing a wheel of a car kind of thing. You have to put them exactly across from each other. If you're 1 millimeter off, they will vibrate.
Yeah.
And that. But, it does increase, a spinning magnet increases EMF fields. Yeah. And, sometimes I test the EMF meters by just swishing a magnet over. It does.
I've done that.
If you put a K2 meter near an EMF pump, Claire, it will send the K2 meter off the scale.
I thought so. Yeah.
Off the scale.
A motor itself is the same basis. A motor turns inside. There's a coil. That when electricity goes through a coil, it causes a magnetic field, and it produces a polar opposite to solid magnets on the outside of the casing of the motor, which causes the motor to turn, and that's how a motor actually turns. It's magnetic inside.
Ooh.
So did you ever experience any physical things, Sam, while you were using them? Did you get headaches or anything like that?
I've made 2 pumps, and one of them I had left on by mistake, and I left them on my workbench and carried on doing things, watching something on YouTube and sitting back, and next thing, got the worst headache I ever experienced. And it's like the magnet's spinning around and something is spinning around your head. So, it does affect. Does it affect the electrical field in your brain? I don't know, but it's certainly a pretty bad headache.
Yeah.
And I've had headaches while putting them together and testing them and stuff like that. Doesn't take that long to actually affect the human body. It's pretty nasty, actually.
The one time I've ever been near one, it literally gave me an headache, and I got like a metallic taste in my mouth. It was disgusting. It did a right weird effect on me. So I don't use them. I really don't use them.
I actually, on mine now, they used to go off in my bag of equipment and that, and now I have safety keys. I have a little key that I turn to make sure they don't come on by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I avoid them like the plague. I really do avoid them like the plague.
They're very handy for a visitor that you particularly don't like.
You want to get rid of visitors, just flick it on, mention nothing, and just stick it right next to them.
Yeah, put it under their chair.
You should patent that, Sam, and sell them. Get rid of your visitors with the old news, Sam nuisance away.
Yeah.
Right, now, a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to tell you the story. As you know, we've been in this house 8 months now. In my old house, I was having some really, really interesting stuff going on. You all know the gravy story with the coffee. We had a big blue orb appear there at one point in the house while I was in the middle of a live. It exploded in the hall. That was another one. So since we've been here, we've had
shoelaces.
Jason shoelaces. He used to go to bed and get up, and they'd be tied in really intricate. Well, not tied. They were woven in really intricate patterns. We've been here 8 months, and nothing happened until about 3 weeks ago, when I started doing the streams again after coming back from the heart attack. Now, I saw a spirit or something in the doorway that was basically a big black shadow in the bedroom doorway one night. Probably about 5'10" to 6 foot tall. It pretty much filled the doorway. Walked into the bedroom, or floated into the bedroom. It wasn't human shaped. It was literally just a black cloud thing that undulated like the cloud would. Came into the bedroom, disappeared. Now, I said nothing to Jace. 2 days later, Jace was woke up in the middle of the night by another black shadow, which he describes as a child. He said he heard it moving in the bedroom and saw it move across the bottom of the bed. That is the only ever shadow figure I have ever really seen clearly.
Brett Lee saw that.
Where is our house?
Lee saw that. Lee saw a child black sort of shadow person in here in room. Mm-hmm. I never did.
Yeah. See, the one I saw was definitely 6 foot. It was 6 foot, or very, very close to 6 foot. The one Jay saw, he said it was a child. He said it was child-sized. He says, and it actually moved. He said he could hear it moving as well as see it. He could hear it walking across the carpet. So what is your opinions on shadow people? So I'll start with Sarah. Let's just type in.
To be honest, I've never really came across one in person.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen the odd shadow in here.
Right.
But again, I'm not 100% because there's been a few times where me and Scott have been in the room that Scott's in, and we've just been casually, before we moved the bed, because the bed used to be, you walked in the door and our bed was like practically right against the door. And now we've moved it, but before we'd moved it, we used to be lying in bed just randomly watching telly or playing with our daughter, and we would see kind of out the corner of our eye something going through the hall. But again, we didn't really see it to kind of comment on what it was. But other than that, I've never really had any. 100%.
I always, you normally hear people say, "Oh, I saw it out the corner of my eye." This thing, I actually looked. I was looking at it directly at it, and I saw it. It's got to have been for a good 10-15 seconds because it was just standing in the doorway. And then I was looking at it, and I'm thinking, "There's something really black in the doorway." And then I'm how you look, thinking, "Is it a trick of the lights?" And then it actually moved about 2 feet into the bedroom. And then it stood in the bedroom for a good about 5 or 6 seconds after it had moved into the bedroom, and then it faded away. But Jay says he heard it first. And when he looked at the bottom of the bed, he actually he said it was the size of a child. So, but it's really weird. And I never told Jace I'd seen that one. And then 2 days later, he actually mentioned it to me because I started laughing when he asked me if I'd seen anything in the house, because I literally had 2 days before. But, really weird. So, Claire?
I don't know anything about them, but I've never actually seen one, but I guess I felt something, took a picture and something showed up in it that looks like a black, I've got a video, which I want to get to you, Brett, to be honest, this video, but I don't know how to, because at length.
I'll bring a dongle over when I come over.
Yeah, because I never actually saw I never saw it while we're filming.
Yeah.
But when I played it back, there is a small black figure person that walks right by me, and it's so clear. It really is. But I've never actually encountered them, like to say, oh, I've never done that. I'm not sure what to make of them, I'll be honest. I haven't got a clue.
Yeah. See, I've got to be honest, when I saw that thing the other week, I wasn't frightened of it.
Right.
It weren't like, giving off any bad evil vibes. It was just standing in the doorway. It weren't doing anything as such.
Yeah.
But it was really strange. Sam?
I've experienced black masses in here, but I have experienced black masses in...
Are you admitting to doing Satanism in the living room, Sam?
No, not black. No, not black masses, but a black mass.
Yeah.
That black mass was very familiar to my last apartment for some reason. This is a brand new house. It's a couple of years old.
Yeah.
It was put up in a couple of weeks. It's new. There's no history here or that like that. I did get a black shadow one night. While the door was ajar, walking past. Not a nice experience. But the question is, why would it happen in my house?
Yeah.
But then again, I have, it's a new house with old stuff in it, with some very questionable dolls and boxes and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Is it connected with that? I don't know. I can't put it.
Right, before I ask Scott, I'm going to read a few of the comments out. Seago says, I've recently seen a shadow figure in the care home I work at, twice in the same room, sat in the same chair before the actual resident passed away.
That's
quite interesting. Gay said she's seen a small figure in her hallway, and so has the daughter and some of her friends, and her friends are too terrified to now go down the hallway. Seago says, I saw the outline of a man in a hat looking down, could make out a coat and boots, but that was it. First time it didn't register, second time was a few days later, and I stopped and walked back. It's in a dark figure in their home. When a friend of mine was in my home, something squeezed his hand. He waited till he got home and found and told me. He said he got the feeling it was a child. There you go. What is everybody's opinion about that? See, for me, I think they're just regular whatever's appearing, and they're just wearing hats because that's what was common in their period of time. Anybody got a particularly strong opinion one way or the other?
Not really, no, Brett, because I don't know enough about that sort of thing. I mean, I've read stories, but they're just stories,
Yeah.
Exaggerated stories, and I don't know.
Right, Scott?
I would say, spirits as to the outline of a man in a hat looking down can make out a coat and boots. I believe, again, this is just my opinion, that it depends what kind of time area you're from. You are going to keep that sense of dress, if that makes sense. Like I say, for me, I've got jeans and a t-shirt on, so it's what I'm used to wearing. So, whenever I pass, maybe I'll be seeing a jeans and t-shirt because it's what I wore at that time. It's what I was used to. Yeah. That's the kind of way I can explain it. But I see that's gentleman was used to wearing a hat and boots and the physical.
Yeah.
Then he's still, because he's the exact same person as he was in the physical as he is in spirit.
Mm-hmm. See, I've got to be honest, that one I saw the other week wasn't person shaped. It literally just was a blob, so to speak, but it was actually changing. You know, imagine, say, you know, like smoke in a bell jar, the way it'd move around, and it was like that. It was undulating slightly. But hang on, let's pull Claire back in.
I am so sorry. It kicked me off and signed me out.
Oh, that's nothing new, Claire. It's always doing it. But you know, it wasn't a person that I saw, but Jace said it was what he saw. He said it was a child. He said it was the shape of a child. But you know, it seems lately there's a lot of these happening and Shadow Men stories cropping up.
Ooh.
I've seen one in here.
True.
I was in myself for some reason one day, and I'm trying to explain the best. We used to be in the next room, and our bed faced the door. And there was one day, and the TV was right in front of the bed, basically. And there was one day I was watching the TV, but right by the door was a black shadow.
Yeah.
You know, if it just came into the house, and I saw it as, you know, it was literally a second, but I know that I seen it because it totally took my attention away from the TV. And we never had any cats at that time, so, you know, it wasn't one of the cats. This is before we got the cats. Sarah and the wee one, they were out. I was in myself, and I seen a shadow going by the door. And then there was another time, about 3 weeks ago, something like that, I was in the living room, and the door was open, and I saw something going by the living room door, going the opposite direction. So I do believe that there is, and then that capture we got the first time in here was just we used a laser pen, and it was just a big. It was a shape. To me, it was the shape of a man.
Yeah,
you know that looked like going by. But no, I believe there is shadow people, and I believe I've seen one in here. Definitely.
Now, moving on from shadow people, and Pat says, I saw a Victorian girl. One bright sunny morning, I watched her walk past, then vanished. I could see all the details of her clothes and curls, and I saw her for quite a few seconds before she vanished. Has anybody else had an experience that vivid? I have, once.
Yeah.
Sam? We'll start with Sam and then we'll go to Claire.
Yeah, I had two images that I can't fully explain because they're not something that interacts with you. There's one night an old lady. This was the height of the summertime, and it was before I moved here. And I lived near a very ancient street with old red brick houses, and the laneway behind the houses was a shortcut for me. So I was walking along there, and this old lady was walking towards me. The reason why I was out so late was it was so hot I couldn't sleep.
Right.
But as this lady approached me, I discovered she was wearing a bowler hat and a brown raincoat that looked like it was wet.
Right.
And as she approached me, I was kind of terrified. I says, there's something not right here. As she approached me, she just was down like that, walked past me, and I just went, hello. And there was no sound. There was no sound of footsteps. There was nothing. In the alleyway where I was, right behind me, there was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I immediately turned around, and she was flipping gone. And I ran like I was terrified.
Yeah.
Well, I went running down towards where she possibly could have disappeared, but it was too far of a distance. It was about 30 or 40 feet before the end of the street. She couldn't have got down there in 1 second.
Yeah.
You know, I was in another house. I was in a house when I was a kid. I was on a retreat with my local church. And one night we, a lot of us, had seen from our dorm window a girl crying in the courtyard. Some of us could hear it, and some of us could see it, and some of us could hear it and see it. She was in a white long night dress, and everybody thought this was a bit weird. So they decided to split up into groups. One group would go one way and go out one of the doors. The other group would go the other way.
Yeah.
And I stayed and I kept watch. But at one stage, I just blinked and she disappeared. And next thing, they were looking up at me and going, where is she and that? So I went out anyway. There was nowhere for her to go that quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It turned out, I was told it was a boys' school at one point, this mansion.
Right.
But I didn't discover until about a year ago. I decided I would look up this house.
Yeah.
It turned out it was at one stage also a school for girls who wanted to be teachers.
Right.
So I don't know. This girl was crying uncontrollably at 2:30 in the morning in a long white night dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of us could hear it, and some of us couldn't, and some of us could, you know.
See her and some couldn't.
Yeah, it was very, very strange.
Yeah.
You know, and it could have been, it could have been something like Stone Tape Cherry. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the lady walking past me was a bit of a weird one. In the middle of the summertime, in the middle of the night, about 2:30 in the morning, this old lady in a raincoat and a very big bowler hat. You could house a family underneath it. It was that big. It's very unusual, old-fashioned type hat. But there was no sound at all. Do you know?
Weird. That's weird.
It's very interesting.
I think so. There was no interaction. I says hello to the lady. She didn't say hello back to me.
Yeah.
It just didn't. Absolutely no sound whatsoever. As if there was. It was like she was gliding.
Yeah.
You know.
Claire?
Well, obviously the first kind of full sort of spirit that I think I saw was my dad, and the reason that that's the case is because I didn't actually know it was my dad. It was a man at the end of my bed.
Yeah.
It weren't until I got older that I pointed him out in pictures. That I was like, well, that's him. It was my dad. But that's very interesting what Sam said, because the atmosphere always changes. It sometimes becomes very muffled and slowed down. It's really hard to explain it. It's like being paralyzed, not in a bad way, but you can't get your words out, and you know what I mean? It's almost just complete. The atmosphere is completely different. And I've never had silence, but I've had, it's like where the sound is suddenly muffled, so it's you can't hear things as clear. The atmosphere itself, it almost seems like time slowed down. That's what it kind of feels like. And that's what I can remember, like, from seeing my dad, was the feeling that came with it. It weren't bad. It was just odd. You know, it was strange.
Yeah. Scott?
I don't know, just what Claire said, the whole atmosphere changes and everything slows down. Maybe, you know, you were getting kind of pulled in slightly to...
Possibly.
You were kind of, how do you put it, like being in another room, you know, see, and you were kind of starting to get into that room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, because it's a very odd feeling.
But what Sam was saying as well, I definitely think it was residual hauntings what Sam had. Sorry, but I forgot the original question. So
have you ever experienced a full-blown manifestation?
Brett, can I ask you something?
Yeah, go on.
Do you think I could have brought my dad in because of what I was going through, Brett?
Possibly.
Yeah, you know what? I've just clicked on then.
Possibly. Sorry, Scott, go on.
To my knowledge, no.
You've never seen anything?
What I've seen in here, that shadow, that's it. So no, I've not.
Sarah?
I can't say that I have experienced anything like that. But then, how would you know?
Exactly. If you just pass somebody and nothing, extraordinary happened.
Exactly. You could be standing in a shop, for instance.
Yeah.
Talking away to somebody, and then that person isn't actually here.
Yeah.
But it's happened. Yeah. It's happened in history.
Right. Mine happened when I was in my mid-20s, and I used to be a bus driver back in the Midlands. And I was driving a minibus. Yeah, I was driving a minibus at the time through a really, and it was known as quite a dodgy area at the time, this particular section of the bus route. And it was 10:15 on a night, I'll never forget it. Pitch black, middle of winter. And this old lady, and I mean old lady, she'd got to have been in her 70s at least, put her hand down and flagged the bus down. I pulled up to the bus stop, I opened the door. This woman got on. Now, she was as solid as any of you lot, I kid you not. She showed me a bus pass, and she sat on the seat right behind me on the bus, right? Now, on the minibuses, we used to have a black screen between the driver and the first passenger, so the passengers can't distract you or something. So, okay, no problem, Sarah. So I'm tootling along on my way to Merry Hill, really pissed off that this woman's on because it's my last run and I'm wanting to get home. So I got to the local town, Quarry Bank, and I'm thinking, she'll get off in a minute. Now, this got to it could be about 10:05 when I finally reached Quarry Bank. Now, normally, if anybody was getting off the bus, that was where they'd get off before, because Merry Hill was closed at this point. It was a shopping centre. She never got off. So I'm thinking, great, I've got to go into the bloody shopping centre now to drop this woman off before I can take the bus round the back and finish. Now, bear in mind, this woman was the only person I'd got on the bus that night. And I spoke to her a couple of times, couldn't see her in the mirror because of the screen. No response off her. So I drove all the way into Merry Hill, pulled up in the bus station, leaned round the side of the screen to tell her we were at the end of the trip, and she weren't there.
What?
She'd gone.
That's
and
cool.
I actually reported it to, I was a bit reluctant to, I actually reported it to my boss the following day, and he admitted to me that there was 5 other drivers who had actually had similar experiences with that particular bus. But what was extremely weird was they were picking this woman up in different locations, because the bus could go on any route sort of thing. I happened to pick her up in the middle of these flats that was really dodgy, but one of the other drivers had picked her up in Sedgley, which was 5 miles away.
I'm sure that story will put in a magazine, Brett, in a spiritual magazine.
It was never, as far as I'm aware, it was never reported, anywhere beyond the boss. But, the boss did actually admit to me that 5 other drivers had actually had similar experiences on that particular bus. But they were picking this woman up in different locations. So
I bet they did, I bet later on they put it in something, like as a piece.
Yeah. But she was as solid as you or me, Claire. I kid you not.
That's awesome.
The only thing I noticed about her was I thought she was just being an ignorant old bugger and not wanting to talk, because she never said a single word to me. She showed me a bus pass and sat down on the seat behind me. And I actually spoke to her a couple of times as I was driving back to Merry Hill, because you do with the old people to keep them, and I never got a response after. And I thought, as either hard of hearing or as just an ignorant old bugger who don't want to talk. But as soon as I pulled in that bus station, I leant round the side to tell her, we were at the end and there was nobody there. The bus was empty. Right, Becky says, why do you think it is that people seem to mostly have communication visuals with ghosts, all from the same period of time, usually Victorian?
That's a good question. That I've always wondered that as well. They always seem to be Victorian, Edwardian, so Tudor period. They always seem to be way back. You never like to see, like Bobby Baker who died a year ago, kind of thing.
Yeah. You do get ghosts to go back to the Middle Ages, lot. Anne Boleyn and all that stuff, but they're not as common as Victorian ones. For me personally, I just think it comes down to the energy thing, where the energy dissipates into somewhere else over a period of time. And because I think a lot of these that people see, they are residual, they are a recording, and I think as time goes on, the energy transfers into someone else. It goes into another form and does something else. And I think we're just in the period probably where the Victorian, anything that was recorded in Victorian era is still, strong enough to play back. Claire?
That's really interesting because I don't have a clue because I've never experienced a Victorian ghost. Sorry.
Okay. Scott?
I've wondered that one myself as well. As I say, it always is Victorian, even way back Tudor times, Middle Ages, etc. And it's one that I can't answer because it's a question that I'd like to know the answer to.
Yeah, but that's always been my opinion, that it's just energy that's dissipating, and that's why who's to say in 100 years' time Victorian ghosts ain't going to be as common, and we're going to be being seen by people in 100 years' time. People now might be doing it. Sarah?
I've never really thought about it much, to be fair, but a lot of the stories that you do hear is kind of Victorian looking.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I could give a theory about the reason behind it.
Yeah. See, Jace has put there, so people from earlier eras see others from eras before them. Yeah, Jace, that's what I believe. That is what I believe.
That's a good theory, Brett. That's a good theory.
I think possibly if we could jump 100 years into the future, or 150 years, I think they would then not be seeing so many Victorian ghosts. They would be seeing more ghosts from this period, because the energy, the energy from now would be the most dominant energy, and the Victorian energy would have dissipated a bit more. Sam?
Short answer. What Brett said. What Brett said. I can't elaborate on that.
That's just a personal theory.
No, it's very interesting.
It's true, or that's what it is. That is just what because I've often thought it myself, and that is the only explanation I can think that would explain it. And that is why we don't see cavemen and dinosaur ghosts, because I think that energy.
Yeah, we do.
I think it's long gone. I think that energy has long, moved into other forms. I really do. Anne says Victorian ages were historically quite horrific. They actually were. And if you think about the death rates in Victorian times, they'd have big families and they'd be lucky to have 2 or 3 kids survive. So
that's true.
The conditions back then, just did nothing basically sanitation wise and medicine and stuff as well.
Gucci and Nike, the fashion for spirits in the year 3000. They could be FT.
Yeah, my auntie's seen soldiers as well, Stephen. My auntie saw soldiers.
I've heard a few stories. Chester as well is meant to be really famous for it. Roman soldiers have been seen there along the Roman road, etc.
Shut up, you idiots.
Back where I come from in the Midlands, in a town called Stourbridge, not far from where I used to live, there is actually a road there called the Roman Road. That is its name. And there's actually been Roman legionnaires seen walking down that road, but they are up to the knees. And it has been, they've done archaeological studies, and they worked out that in Roman times, when, in ancient Britain, when the Romans were here, the road would have been a foot lower. So Becky, hang on, just answering that question again. Becky, shouldn't the energy from now still be the strongest, as it's not been in that form for as long? So not really, because I think it's more of a collective thing. there's a lot, there's a lot more dead Victorians have built up the energy, and I think I just think it moves in waves. As we move on, I think the periods that people in the future see will be, will be like us lot. But yeah, that place in Stourbridge, that is quite well known for seeing the Roman legionnaires marching down the road. But they're literally cut off just below the knee, walking down the road.
Because back in their time, back in their day, that's where the road was. The same as
that was where the road level was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The north of Glasgow is meant to be a Roman settlement, and there's been 2 or 3 reports of Roman soldiers being heard and seen up there as well.
My friend lives not far from the local cemetery. What's everybody's opinions on cemeteries? Because I know a lot of people
the dead
to cemeteries and and do spirit boxes and investigations and stuff. Personally, we've never done a graveyard.
Why would they be there?
Or a churchyard on the channel, but me and Jace do want to do some, basically because we haven't done none. But what's your opinion on graveyards? Do you think you're more liable to see a spirit in a graveyard or not, Claire?
No. Honestly, and why would they be there?
Because it's just their places. Just their earthly remains.
I mean, all places they could be, they're going to be there. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one, Brett. But then again, I've never actually done an investigation in a graveyard, so.
See, I think spirits can connect to you wherever they want. You could be in your toilet, or you could be in the graveyard right next to where they're buried. I think if they want to come to you, they'll come to you regardless of where you are. But I do think a lot of people go to the graveyards because it is the biggest connection to death. That is where everybody's mortal remains are left. Scott, because you do a lot of grave friars, don't you?
Yeah, my opinion on it, and again, this is my opinion, is that it varies from location to location. You take, like say, we've got a cemetery beside it, not far from us. It's not an old one; it's fairly new, and there's nothing there. But if you go to like Greyfriars, we've done Greyfriars quite a few times. I think it depends on the history of the place as well, who's there, who's buried there. Like Greyfriars is famous for the plague victims that were buried there, and the Covenanters that are buried there, and the estimate is about 500,000 bodies usually buried in Greyfriars. And so I feel Greyfriars, I think a lot of them are trapped there because they don't know where to go, because their physical life was that horrible that there's nobody there to guide them to move them on.
Sorry to chop you off, Scott. I'll put that up in a minute. Go on, sorry. Go on, carry on. I'm chopping your head off there.
That's fair. Nobody first time. So I think it varies from location to location, but everybody's got this image a cemetery is going to be haunted, regardless of its age, because it's a cemetery.
Do you think also the fact, that people, when they go to cemeteries, they're really upset, and you've got this charged emotion that a lot of stuff in cemeteries could actually be residual rather than intelligent, like stone tape theory. Do you think that's what a lot of it could be? Because there's a lot of charged emotions in cemeteries when people get to visit the dearly departed relatives.
That's what we're asking, Sam. I think it could be because you say, if you think of the amount of people that are in a cemetery and the amount of relatives that go and visit their graves, you're talking about a lot of emotion, grief, a lot of energy there. So I feel that it would build up. I think cemeteries are always going to be, a favourite investigation because that's where people are buried. But as you say, Brett, it could be a cemetery, it could be a local school, it could be a bus station, it could be anywhere.
And the thing is, there's so many of them been moved. You could be you could be in a building that used to be a cemetery for all you know.
Exactly. Well, I used to go to college many years ago, and there was a cemetery right next door to the college. Literally, you walked out the back of the college and you were in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And the college was haunted. There were several documented stories about the college being haunted. And it turned out that they investigated it, and it turned out that the college was actually built on part of the cemetery.
Yeah.
Some of the bodies had been moved, but not all of them had been moved.
Yeah.
So that was it's actually quite a kind of spooky building, you know. It was kind of, it was a weird feel when we walked into it, but then we found out that it was actually built on part of the cemetery.
Yeah.
But our cemetery.
Sorry. Do you want to finish your hairdressing and give us your opinion?
I think that it depends on the cemetery.
Right.
Because, as Scott said, we've been to grave trials quite a few times investigating. And there's only been one kind of real time where I felt something that felt uneasy.
Yeah.
The rest of the times we've been, I felt totally calm and quite relaxed.
Yeah.
But I think there is a misconception behind graveyards and cemeteries that because there's obviously bodies buried there, that it's obviously going to be haunted.
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
But just to add to grave trials, I mean, everybody's got the inclination that grave trials is terrifying. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a total opposite feeling you get when you walk in.
I've got to be honest, I always find graveyards quite peaceful to be in. You know, I think 9 times out of 10 they've got lovely atmospheres to them. Sam? Live from Broadmoor.
Cemeteries. Cemeteries lately, are having a reputation of being a little bit cringy because it's associated with being scary and spooked and all that kind of stuff. And at the beginning of this journey, I actually got one of my first EVPs in a cemetery, and there wasn't very many headstones. And how I captured the EVP was I got it through my audio of my camera.
Yeah.
And, I seen Elemental Encounters was going live, kind of a sort of a free flow sort of ask Andy anything and all the rest of it. So I didn't know Andy at that time, and I asked him a question. I says, I just got an EVP and it says, help me. And I said, what do I do? And Andy was saying, no, you need to be very careful there. You need to get more information and stuff like that. But I did go back to that cemetery and we done a spirit box session and we did get some sort of contact. And I says, the cringy question, did you die here? And they said, yes. I says, can you show me where you're buried? And she says, yes. So next time we were going to the right, left, and then it stopped. And I says, is it here? And the female voice says, yeah. Thing is, I can't take that as gospel. But I did get directions to a grave.
That's cool.
But generally, I'm not one of these people that are into the scary intros with the headstones and the crows and the bats and skulls and all that kind of stuff. Can cemeteries be haunted? Yeah, possibly. I don't. There is stories, but then again, you know my opinion on some stories.
Yeah. Do you think people, when they're in graveyards, are more liable to jump to a paranormal explanation solely on where they are?
Yeah.
It's a frame of mind that they're in.
Yeah.
When they're in it, because they associate graveyards, obviously, with death and ghosts and what have you. So if they're in that frame of mind and they hear something or
I think they're straight away going to put it down to a ghost and not a fox or a
it's like being at woods, isn't it, Brett? When you hear something and then it's kind of the same thing.
Because if you think about it with churchyards, a lot of churchyards have trees planted in them. And I don't know whether a lot of people know, but a lot of the time you'll find trees in graveyards are actually rowans, because in olden times they were considered to ward off evil. You know, so you've got all these trees. You always see loads of squirrels in graveyards, unless you take Kaya with you, and then, you know, there'll be a lot less squirrels in the graveyard once you leave. But, you know, so if you're going in on a night, you're going to be disturbing things like squirrels and hedgehogs and foxes and badgers. So, you know, location has a big impact on people when they're out doing any sort of investigation. But I do think that if you watch a lot of graveyard investigations, they do immediately straight away it's something paranormal rather than, you know. And I think that's a subconscious thing more than anything else. It's like you said, Scott, it's a frame of mind. You're thinking, you know, I'm in a graveyard, I'm in a place where there's loads of dead bodies. You're expecting to see something. So the second you hear a twig snap, Satan himself is after you. You know,
exactly.
You know, it's that kind of thing.
The comment you've got up there about the city full of drug dealers and nut jobs, that's exactly right. You know, Glasgow's quite bad for it, and Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Greyfriars is quite famous for a lot of homeless people sleeping in it.
Yeah.
Drug dealers and that in Greyfriars, I don't know.
Well, we've got a place here called Boston Castle, and every time we've been there, they've been, you know, doing the deals up there. So we've never had a chance to really do much up there. Every time we've gone, it's been full of druggies, every single time, and they're pulling up in the cars constantly, absolutely constantly.
I don't think it's one of these places that you never expected the police to go to. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I was a teenager, you quite simply, it was the one place the police would never look for you. You know, they would walk through parks and stuff, but they would never ever walk through a graveyard. So that's what we done our drinking, but we weren't wrecking the place or destroying headstones. We were just sitting having a drink and then, you know, leaving basically. So I think that's why a lot of these drug dealers and, you know, people kind of same level kind of go there because they know they're going to get peace basically.
There you go. That's what Jay said about every time we've been to Boston, the druggies and the cemetery was locked. See, Gay's made an interesting comment here. You know, foxes sound like crying or screaming, and badgers growl, don't they? Barn owls scream as well. This is my point. You really need to educate yourself on what your local wildlife sounds before you go on an investigation. Because, you know, if you encounter a deer in a wood and it starts grunting or doing some of the noises deer make, honestly, they're terrifying.
They are.
If you're hearing them in the dark and not sure what they are, especially if you shine your torch and you've got a pair of glowing eyes, you know, it's all sorts of, you know, because some deer can stand quite tall. They can look like quite a large thing and, you know, up against a tree grunting with glowing eyes.
Yeah, but I think a lot of these ghost hunter groups, they go to a cemetery simply to scare the life out of the people in the chat.
Yeah.
So they, you know, and the first alarm bell to watch out for is, what do you think in the chat? What do you think of this place? And next thing you'll see the chat going, oh, it's spooky, it's scary, and all that kind of stuff. And they're lapping it up, you know. To a lot of investigators now, it is considered a little bit cringe. Yeah. And they try to avoid the cemeteries and that. But you know, when it comes to ITC, you could do ITC anywhere, you know. With paranormal,
you could be sitting on your toilet, Sam, doing it, and you know you've got just as much chance of getting communication than you have in the middle of a wood or, you know, a graveyard or anything.
Well, that's it.
The big brown ghost.
Yeah. Goes to the Christmas log.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Claire's eating the Christmas log. Do you think people are putting too much into videos lately with the, you know, with the build up and stuff?
Yep.
you know, don't you think it's better just to keep it simple and just cover what you're doing rather than all the creepy build-up that a lot of people seem to think is necessary nowadays?
You mean the entertainment, Brett?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to be polite about it, Claire.
Well, that's all they are.
You don't need I don't think we do them, do we, Sarah? I don't want to say anything to find out we do them.
I don't think we've actually done a full video of us out on investigation. To be honest, because a lot of the time recently we've been live streaming it a lot when we've been out. Not that we've been out for a while because of everything that's happening, but when we go out, we tend to live stream it more than we'll obviously film it and then I'll put the video that we've got up.
Yeah.
But the majority of the time now, we've been kind of live rather than filming. So
yeah,
I think
it's the scary ambient music that makes me laugh, because they do this great big 5-minute build up of all this creepy noise, and then you hear a twig snap, and you think, is that it? You know, after 5 minutes of build up.
The scary music, if we're going out, if we've been out and we've not done an investigation, we've just took pictures, or Scott's filmed a walk round, I'll put scary music on that, but that's only because there's no, like, we're not doing an investigation or anything.
Yeah.
Ideal, basically, you know.
It's just.
And you know, the other thing that seems to be common nowadays is the clickbaity titles and the thumbnails. You know, and you read this thing like attacked in the graveyard, and then it never happens in the entire video, and you think, you know, I've just wasted 40 minutes of my life watching that, and
you mean like when I
was
watched
supposed to happen on that never did.
When I watched that Winchester overnight, yeah, I think I wasted my time there, Brett, with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you watch? Oh, you're talking the movie, or?
No, I watched somebody go and investigate.
I do make fun of the clickbait titles. I recently done a video where I was on a kind of an investigation that went completely and utterly pear-shaped, and I was followed around by a cat. So I decided to call the video "I Got Scratched." And I got scratched. I got scratched by the cat.
Yep.
And I had another video where I was investigating in a school, and I put in the thumbnail, "There's no demons or poltergeists here." It's when the poltergeist phase and the poltergeist and the demon phase was coming through YouTube, and that I just decided to take the piss. You know, me and Rachel, we'd say, you know, we're at this location. You know, it's pretty dark.
See, I've got no problem with them building an atmosphere up to something, you know, and I've got no problem with a bit of creepy music in a video. But when they're constantly filling the videos with creepy music and then nothing's actually happening, that's when it starts to get a bit meh. You know, if you've got something that's really convincing and you want to put a bit of creepy music to build up to it, all well and good. That, you know, that's good editing. But, you know, if you're going to put 5 minutes of bloody, you know, whatever music you're going to put on there, the Omen, Fortuna, just to end it with a twig snapping, you know, it's a bit meh, shit.
Yep.
I think all our videos, we just put the name of the location, don't we? I don't think we do any clickbait titles. I think our videos are all, for instance, Greyfriars investigation, or a walk around a local park or cemetery or whatever. I don't think we do the whole clickbait titles.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think, you know, if you put a video out and you say, you know, right, we done Greyfriars Kirkyard and this happened and we heard this and this, whoever's sitting watching it, they're not actually watching the video. They're sitting there watching for this one particular spot.
Yeah.
They hear the Brit.
And what'll happen with a lot of time, and I'm guilty of doing it myself, I'll be honest. If they put that this thing's going to happen, I'll just start flicking through the video trying to find the spot where it actually happens. So they end up with a lower view time on the video anyway.
And then you've got the whole theories that when you've got everybody in alive in a room and you said, did you hear that? And then the other person goes, yeah. And then all of a sudden it's just a roller coaster of them saying, yeah, I did. But actually, nobody did.
Yeah.
You know?
See, this is something you've got to be very careful of when you're investigating groups, that you don't feed off each other's,
hype
sort of thing. You've got to be, and you've got to be with people who you can trust enough to go, no, never heard a thing. Because a lot of people just don't want to upset people, so they go, yeah, I heard it.
Well, Brett's learning me.
I'd rather go with people who go, no, never heard a thing.
Yeah, well, Brett's learning me, and Brett's very blunt. He'll tell me how it is.
Like Claire sent me a video today, and instead of these,
I did.
Dust, and I'm like, dust. I won't tell people they're orbs if I don't think they're orbs.
They were pretty, but the word dust, yeah.
Yeah, you've got to be. Who's hiding a frog? I've no idea. You have got to be honest with people if you're going to investigate with them. You've got to trust each other enough and respect each other enough, like we do on here, because we never agree on anything half the time. But
right.
you've got to have that respect that you can accept other people's opinions, or you can accept the fact that somebody down here, Joe the ghost shout boo from behind the mirror or whatever.
But Brett, I mean, I'd rather you say to me, look, it's just dust, because otherwise, what am I going to do? I'm going to be like, there's so many orbs everywhere. They're not orbs,
That video that I done commentary on how to be a paranormal investigator actually highlights an awful lot of that.
Yeah.
That was actually quite funny.
Oh yeah.
Is Timothy here? I nearly choked at one spot. I nearly choked at one point. When they says if it gets boring, just go back to the story and call out one of the names in the story. And then he goes, "Is Timothy here?" And the reason why I choked on it, because it hit a little bit close to home, to be honest with you. But I nearly drowned in my tea that night. I had to cut the video, and I thought, I was choking on my tea. I thought I was going to drown. But that particular spot just really hit home to me, because I did have a habit of calling out the names of the history of a place, which I don't do anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I've still got that habit. I'm still learning, Sam, so I still do that.
But the thing is, Claire, as Scott and Sarah will tell you, once you start doing it, you find your own little pathway and your own little niche to do it with. Because no two people do it exactly the same.
Yeah, that's right.
And the secret is to find what is comfortable for you.
Yeah.
And to do that, you do have to put yourself in some uncomfortable situations sometimes, and you think, nah, this ain't for me.
Sometimes I'm just an idiot.
And find it's perfect for you.
Sam, read me bedtime stories. What the hell is that?
What she ain't said yet, though, is she wants them in a dominatrix outfit, Sam. Once upon a time.
My prison uniform. That was definitely a wardrobe malfunction. I do look like I've been in prison, don't I? Mm-hmm. I could have played. I could have taken advantage of the green screen there and put a little prison background.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That'll need to be your new T-shirt for lives, we think.
Yeah, you should have a T-shirt with broadcasting from Broadmoor on it.
I've got an idea.
Claire's got an idea. God help us. Right, guys. I think we're going to call it a night now because it's 11:05 and I'm starting to flag a bit. Unfortunately, I can't last as long as I used to. And I'm getting a bit tired. So I'd like to
Lee didn't leave yours till late though, did he? So
I'd like to thank everybody on the panel again. Sarah and Scott from Paranormal in History. I can get it right now. If anybody, can you drop your link in the chat quickly? If anybody hasn't gone over and followed them, please do, because they are a really good down-to-earth team. You know, there's no drama or nothing. It is just
there's some very interesting things coming up as well.
Same with Claire, Wisteria Elemental Witch. Well, I nearly said wish then.
Oh, that's nice.
Please show Claire your support and show Sam your support if you haven't as well. Thank you for coming in, because you do make it what it is. You know, without your questions and stuff, it wouldn't be half as good as it is. So thank you all, and we will see you all probably next Friday if I ain't done something in between. So have a good night, everybody, and we will see you. What date is it now?
The 9th.
Right, we've got a couple more streams before we do the Halloween special, so I might reveal a little bit more of what we're doing late next week on that. Not telling you where we're going and exactly what you're doing, but I'll tell you some of the plans we've got. So good night, everybody. Sleep tight and don't let the ghosties bite. Night all.
Night.
You lot stay in.
Bye.
Bye all.
Sorry.
Fucking hell.
Didn't mean to knock you out, like.